the corner. We've got media days to hold us over. In the meantime, the Big 12 currently holding theirs this week. And yesterday, Deion Sanders had a lot to say about the landscape of college football and the way schools pay their players.
I wish it was a cap. Like the top of the line player makes this. And if you're not that type of guy, you're not going to make that. That's what the NFL does. So the problem is you got a guy that's not that darn good, but he could go to another school and they give him $500,000. And you can't compete with that. That don't make sense. All you have to do is look at the playoffs and see what those teams spent. And you understand darn near why they're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to compete with somebody who's giving $25, $30 million to a darn freshman class.
All right, we've got Paul Finebaum, Kevin Clark joining us here for this one as well. Paul, obviously, he's talking about the NFL model. Very different than the college football model, even with the House settlement going through recently. But do you agree with Deion, just off the top, that college football should have a salary cap?
In a perfect world, of course I agree, but we don't live in a perfect world in college football, which is one reason it makes it so bizarrely interesting. And I find it just a tad bit interesting and maybe a slight bit hypocritical that Deion Sanders, after his two great players, I mean, we're not just talking about good players in terms of Travis Hunter, one of the best players in modern college football history. As they depart, suddenly Deion wants a cap. Can you imagine what Travis Hunter would have been worth, and would Deion have been in favor of a cap then? Of course not. So Deion is simply trying to tell the media, hey, let's talk about something other than my football team, which is going to be painfully boring and perhaps even mediocre this year.
Kevin?
All right, first of all, Paul, I hosted your show for the past 3 days. Understatement of the year, your callers miss you and want you to come back, okay? Yesterday, I talked a lot about NIL, and they did not like my stance on it, okay? First of all, to channel a great Nick Saban line, everybody wants a salary cap, but nobody wants to do what salary cap sports do, which is collective bargaining, obviously recognizing the players as employees, and having a system where we come up with a cap because you have trade-offs. That isn't what anybody's proposing right now in college sports. Instead, they're saying we're going to have an artificial cap. It's going to be because of a settlement, which was a very small percentage of players and lawyers getting together with the NCAA and coming up with these crazy rules that are going to be ignored. There already was a cap for 100 years. It was $0.00. No one took it seriously. Now it's $20.5 million, and guess what? Nobody's taking that cap seriously. That will continue. There is nothing they're going to be able to do to control spending. I talked to somebody yesterday who knows everything about college sports. They said, after the House settlement, for whatever reason, the high school market for players exploded in a way they've never seen before. $3 million for certain players, $2 million for certain players. This is not ending. And so you say, okay, well, now there's going to be a cap. Well, what are you going to say to the player in a couple of years? Oh, no, don't look at the guys who made $3 million. You're going to make $100,000. It's never going to happen. It won't happen now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Texas Tech just signed a player for $2.3 million. And maybe, David, some of this has to do with the fact that the Big 12's trying to keep up with the SEC, with the Big 10. Like, this is very much a trying to level the playing field sort of move. But Deion Sanders wasn't the only one at Big 12 Media Days, not the only coach who talked about this. Is it in any world, without these student athletes being employees, is there any possible way that they can create some sort of level playing field that is more like the NFL model? Or are we just talking about this and not actually seeing a solution?
Absolutely not. There is no desire for NCAA to create a level playing field. The playing field has never been level in the NCAA in any of the sports, and it's actually quite, disappointing that Deion Sanders is the guy who's coming out talking about salary caps, because when Deion Sanders came into college football, there was this idea that this guy was going to be the disruptor. He was going to line the pockets of these players. He was going to break all the rules and make sure that the players got taken care of. And now that his kid is out, his players are gone, he has this idea of a salary cap and needing to reduce the amount of money. He sounds like the guys that he was supposedly rebelling against when he came into college football, as opposed to be the players' coach. Deion Sanders also is not up here talking about a cap on his salary and the money that he's making, and other coaches and their salaries. Is absolutely hypocritical for him to come out there and talk salary cap at this state in the game when, as Kevin Clark said, is absolutely right. There was a $0 cap for the longest. And guess who was still in the national championship conversation every single year? Alabama, Ohio State, the big names. It did not matter. So Deion Sanders sounds like somebody who is part of a machine that he claimed to have been raging against when he first got into college football.
First of all, David, all of the SEC teams followed the rules at all times and adhered to the $0 cap. I just want to just get on record as saying that.
The above tables.
There is a report today that a new bill in Congress is going to come out, and that's the one pathway that the NCAA has for an actual cap with, I guess, some ramifications. But when you're asking Congress to solve your problems, Congress, listen to yourself, Congress, that shows me that you're out of ideas. I don't think this is going to pass. I don't think you're going to get 60 senators to sign off, which according to the reports is what you're going to need there. You need 7 Democrats to do that. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think college football is going to be saved by Washington. It's going to be saved by itself, and that might be even harder.
Yeah, I'm sure the NCAA is sitting with Deion's salary cap suggestion this morning, maybe going over it in their morning meeting. We'll see if they do anything with that. But let's talk about the team itself. Coach Prime now preparing for life in Colorado without coaching his sons, Shador and Shiloh, and of course Heisman winner Travis Hunter, who is now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been with him since his Jackson State days. So here's Deion and how he's approaching this next chapter in his coaching career.
We won't have those 2 phenomenal players, but we will have a phenomenal team. We're not as good individually, but we're better collectively.
Okay.
It's easier for me, man.
Okay. Why?
Because I don't have to be 2 things. I don't have to be the father and the coach.
Yeah.
Now I could just be the coach.
So a phenomenal season coming the way of the Colorado Buffaloes. Paul, this was a 9-4 team that went to the Alamo Bowl last year. I don't know if that's phenomenal, but does Deion have anything to prove this season?
I don't think he does. He is still one of the most entertaining people in sports. We're gravitated to him, even though Vegas is saying the over and under for the win total is 6.5. Most of the time, the #1 show on morning television, First Take, doesn't talk about 6-win teams, but we talk about Deion because he's entertaining, he's compelling. Yes, he's hypocritical, but that goes for everybody in college sports, as Kevin alluded to. So it doesn't really matter what he does this year. I think last year he proved that he is relevant. And quite frankly, I'm the one right here with Stephen A. who said, I don't think that we'll be talking about this guy in November. And we were, because they won a couple of big games. They had magical players, and they really did matter. Now, the real question, though, is in October, November this year, without Travis Hunter, and without his son playing, will we still care? More than likely, he'll say something that gets our attention, but average teams don't get a lot of attention when we're talking about the CFP.
Okay, so you think he's already proven himself as a head coach. Kevin, you don't even have to put a number on it because it's Big 12 football. It's the beginning of July right now. However this thing plays out, probably doesn't matter for Deion's legacy long term, but what would you consider success for Colorado this year?
A bowl game. A bowl game, you're losing one of the most talented college football players in this century, I'd say, and then you're trying to rebuild in the quarterback position. They've got one of the best young quarterbacks in the country, a former 5-star in Juju Lewis, and then obviously a transfer, and we'll see how that competition shakes out. But every question that's been thrown at Deion Sanders since he got to Colorado has been answered emphatically. Everybody said he couldn't do it in the Big 12. He's done it in the Big 12. Everybody said he couldn't keep recruiting at that level. He has. He's been able to replenish through the portal, and he's been able to stockpile talent. I don't think he needs to prove very much going forward, okay? I think he's shown, I think the scariest thing, if you're a college coach right now, is to hear Deion Sanders is in contact with your recruit because people want to play for him. He gets 5 stars to Boulder, Colorado, a place that 5 stars were not thinking about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You have to go back to the 80s for the last time they were able to recruit at that level. Deion Sanders is bringing magnetism to Boulder, Colorado that is stunning for anything in the Big 12, stunning for basically any program outside of the top 7 or 8 programs in the entire country. He has been an absolute phenomenon, and all of his detractors should be apologized.
And I guess in terms of not having anything to prove, he also signed a 5-year extension worth $54 million in March. So clearly he'll be fine job security wise. But David, I want to go to you on this. Will you look at Deion the same way that you did last season, even if they are a bowl game team to get in there might be 6 wins? Is that going to make you think any differently about Coach Prime?
I think so, because I think that the way that people have looked at him in these last few years is you had two of the best players in the country, and that was kind of a buffer for you, and they helped you get to where you are, and you carried them throughout your entire career. Now you are doing this as from scratch as you possibly can as somebody like Deion Sanders, going out and recruiting, going out and developing play calls around people that you're not familiar with, that you haven't been with since they were babies pretty much. And so you have a situation where you can show people who there are some detractors out there who are still do not care about the magnetism and the eyes, and they want to see actual wins. I think that he can show that, yes, I can do this from a from-scratch level like all these other coaches out there, and recruiting people to Colorado and getting myself into a bowl game. I think it can help his legacy as a college coach.
All right, T-minus just under 2 months. They open up the season against Georgia Tech on August 29th. We cannot wait. The countdown is on. Paul, thank you for swinging through here. I know it's a busy time of year as Media Day season is in our midst.
How much